Hello and welcome to the latest TMSAction Webinar. And this webinar is on the wonderful subject of e-newsletters. Great stuff. So if you are just signed on, perhaps you could just type in the bottom left-hand corner there, and we'll be able to know who's joined us. Really pleased to see so many of you here today. As Nick's just said, we're going to be talking about e-newsletters, which is one of our favourite ways of getting the message out there. Both Nick and I use e-marketing for hypnotherapy businesses.
Indeed.
And we also use for TMS itself, Therapist Marketing Solutions. We think it's a really good way, it's a really cost-effective way of getting the message out there. So it's a really good way of communicating regularly with past clients, current clients, and of course reaching potential future clients who might be out there, because your current clients might forward the e-newsletter on. And there's three things you need to do really in order to get an e-newsletter off the ground. You need to build a mailing list of people you want to send your e-newsletter to. You also want to get kind of a template, the look and feel of what your newsletter should look like. And that's a bit like a blank Word document, that kind of thing that you can actually put your stories and articles into. And then, of course, you need to actually create the content itself. And we're going to cover each of these things off in turn as we go through. Nice to see some more people signing on. That's really great. Welcome. Now, actually, it turns out that email marketing is at the top of the list of marketing activities for small and medium-sized businesses. About 98% of small businesses used email marketing in 2013. That's a really high percentage. It just goes to show how cost-effective it is. There are ups and downs, of course, and we're going to talk through some of those as we go through.
So, a question. Where will the majority of your next month's business come from? Is it going to be new clients knocking on your door, or is it existing clients coming back? And this is something that's worth sitting down and actually thinking about. And I suspect, unless you're brand new, that most of your clients will be returning clients. You're going to probably have clients who are totally mad about you and rave about you. You're going to have hot prospects, so you're pretty certain at some point they're going to come along. Potential clients, not too sure what they might be doing, and then people who you think might be interested but possibly turn out not to be. And there's going to be more. Exactly how many more? This is the question. So the industry statistics say that on average it takes 7 contacts with a potential client in order for them to buy. Now that's quite a lot when you think about it. And this is where therapists tend to go a bit wrong sometimes, because they don't realise they have to keep on. The other really interesting stat is it's 6 to 7 times more expensive to get a new customer on board than to retain an existing customer. So when it comes to your marketing, this is why e-newsletters are so good. It's keeping you in contact with the existing clients. And I mean, I've had clients from say 3-4 years ago, 6-7 years ago, who might have come to me for insomnia. The reason I like to keep them up to speed with what I'm doing is they've got me in their eye line as sorting them out for insomnia. They might not realise that I could maybe help a friend with a fear of flying. So as you write about all these different things and keep sending it out, the whole idea is they will forward this e-newsletter on to other people and get new clients for you. Why e-marketing? Well, if you're going to send leaflets through the mail, through the letterbox, that's going to cost you approximately 20 times more than email marketing. So if you're subscribing to one of the main e-newsletter software companies, it's still going to cost you one heck of a lot more to actually send stuff through the post, especially with the cost of postage these days. So the return on investment from email marketing is the highest of any other of the marketing mediums on the internet, if done properly, and that's what we're here to tell you about today. If you send multiple emails from your own email system, and I discovered this myself when I actually tried this once. I was wanting to send out to about 200 people, and I was sending emails out to about 30 people at a time. And all of a sudden, I'm with BT Internet, they froze my account because they felt as though somebody had hacked my account and was sending out spam. So this is where it becomes very difficult to send multiple emails from your own email system, and this is where we're going to be looking at some of the software providers here. Also, if you send, say, only a couple of emails from your own email provider, those people you're sending to, those recipients, can't automatically just click a button that says unsubscribe. Whereas using the newsletter providers, all they've got to do is click on one button, and then the software automatically removes that person from your mailing list. So you don't even have to worry about it. It will actually come up in a report to say this person is unsubscribed. And also, using e-marketing, you can be absolutely certain that clients can't see who else you're mailing to. And this is, we've come across people, haven't we, where they've actually emailed out to people and they haven't blind copied those people and they've just sent them directly to. So with data protection, it meant that everybody could see who else was this person's client. So, you know, you've got to watch yourself. Debbie.
Excellent. By the way, if you're new to webinars, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen there's a little box which should say type your message here. If as we go along a question occurs to you, just type it in the box, and when we can draw breath, we will answer your question for you. So what e-newsletters can do then? Of course, what we're all about is promoting our business. That's the main purpose of getting your newsletters out there. And that might be that you want to encourage people to buy your services, perhaps to sign up for some more therapy. It could be that you've got a big event coming up, an open day or a talk that you're putting on, and you can boost attendance by promoting it via your e-newsletters. And of course, the main thing, of course, is that you get your brand awareness out there. So it's really important that everything is really consistent in all of your marketing activities. So what you can do is you can increase awareness by allowing customers to understand what it is that you do. So you can put in little anecdotes in your newsletter, and you can refer to external articles and so on to explain more about what it is you do. And it's a good way of keeping the drip feed going. If you send out regular newsletters, it's part of your overall marketing activity. And remember, of course, it takes people 7 times approximately to see a message before they actually take action. And of course, it allows you to get in front of your potential clients. And if you're doing this properly, you'll be way ahead of the game. There aren't many therapists that do this well.
No, there isn't.
So if you are out there getting the newsletters out there, you will be, as I say, ahead of the game. Your clients will warm to you. You're reminding them that you're there, how good you are. And it kind of it gives a kind of a family feel. You know, they feel like, you know, that they're a part of your group. Of course, and following on from that theme, building rapport. It helps to build rapport with your clients. So it increases referrals, because what can tend to happen is if you've got some really interest in your newsletter, and one of your clients thinks, oh, so-and-so might be interested in that, it's a very simple thing for them to forward your newsletter on. And of course, it encourages loyalty. Out of sight is out of mind. So the opposite is true, of course. Every time you send your newsletter out, it's not so much about what it is you're saying. Really what you're doing is you're putting yourself back into the attention span. Really good way of keeping people warm. So they might have been struggling recently, or perhaps So pricing then, how do you go about doing this? Nick's already said that it's not a good idea to send bulk emails from your private address, otherwise you will get blacklisted as a spammer. There are 2 main players on the market. Constant Contact, who we use, and if you get newsletters from us, then well, you will see that ours come through Constant Contact. The other one is MailChimp. Now, Constant Contact are very good. They do a free trial period for a month, and you can upload up to 500 contacts, which for therapists is quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you can send an unlimited number of emails during that time, and then after that, it's very reasonable at £10 a month to up to 500 clients, and then it kind of climbs the more clients that you get. But it's a fantastic tool for small businesses, as is MailChimp. MailChimp is actually free, up to 2,000 contacts and 12,000 emails a month. Which
don't think we're going to need that many yet.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, hi Sarah. Yeah. Now the winner, obviously, on that criteria is MailChimp. We're going to go on and see some other factors there. Are these comparing emailing people within area? Do you mean area there, Sarah? Just if you could just clarify what you mean within area, that would be useful. Thank you. Great. I'm just going to try and see the whole of your. Are these companies emailing people within your area? Yes, geographical. Yes, you actually. What happens is you build your mailing list. Okay, so you don't buy in names or anything, but what happens is when you've got your clients, you ask them what their email address is, and you say, would you mind if I send you an email from time to time? And then you add their email address into either Constant Contact or MailChimp into your address book in those companies.
We're going to cover that in a minute, actually. So hopefully, Sarah, that will answer that question for you then.
But actually, other people, if other therapists have got the same clients, they could be emailing them as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful. Brilliant. Lovely. Thanks, then. Good. So in terms of whether or not it's free, of course, MailChimp wins hands down. In terms of support, Constant Contact offers limited phone support for the UK, but they've got very helpful resources on their site. And in fact, most questions that I've ever come across with Constant Contact, I found very clear answers to via their online tutorials and so on.
They are a very friendly company, actually, aren't they?
In fact, I think it was Constant Contact that I went to a seminar in Bristol on, very, very helpful people. With MailChimp, it's mainly self-service support, but of course, remember, it's free, okay? And so they've got an online knowledge base that you can type questions on to get the answer to. There isn't phone line support.
That's from other members, though, isn't it? They don't have the actual support there. So
no.
People supporting people.
Yeah.
Clients supporting clients, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, as you would expect, if you've got a free account, you wouldn't get phone support, and that's quite normal in the industry. If you've got a free account, you don't get phone support. But if you do obviously go on to pay for the MailChimp services further down the line, then you would get phone support. So in terms of support, Constant Contact come out top. You probably can't see this too cleverly, but you can see here when you compare the two kinds of functionality, there's not a lot between them in terms of what one will do and what the other won't do. The reason we prefer Constant Contact, we'll come on to a little bit in a minute, that essentially they provide the same kind of service. So in other words, you put your names and addresses in, you can copy an email, you send it out, and you can schedule your emails as well.
Now, one of the most important things about e-newsletters is this word deliverability, which I'm pleased to say I got my teeth around first time. And this is important because it's a measure of how many emails arrive in the recipient's inbox rather than that pain in the neck spam file. And how many of you, have had somebody send something to you and you've not realised it's arrived because it's got buried in the spam file. So this is very, very important for therapists to know that their emails are actually going to potential clients, past clients, existing clients, etc. And this following slide says it all that we came across as we researched this webinar. This guy, Mark, said when we first started with email marketing, we used MailChimp because it was free, which you can imagine why that would be. And we'd seen other businesses use it. We quickly made the switch to Constant Contact because when we heard numerous times that our emails are going to our subscribers' spam folders. So this is where Constant Contact's deliverability rate made the decision to switch very easy for us. So that was a quote I came across. And then this PR marketing consultant stated that within 1 month of using MailChimp, her primary email wasn't working properly. And she later discovered about 1 in 20 weren't being sent or received. And she kept thinking it was the client's fault, but the email host finally confirmed that she'd been flagged for spam because of her MailChimp account. So while her MailChimp emails were still being delivered, the emails she was sending from her main email address the one that she'd used to set up the MailChimp account, or email to say a client or, I don't know, a mother, from her main email account, it wasn't getting through. So there were some problems here. Now, we will say that these findings are current as at June 2014, and both providers are constantly, and we've seen this happening, haven't we, Debbie, adding and changing their offerings. So it does with possibly both these providers or others as they come up through the marketplace. We've picked the top two here and the most reliable two. So a top tip we'd give you is to maybe, if you've never done e-newsletters before, or even if you haven't, you've only been using one company, is to sign up for both companies, because they both do these free trials, have a play and see how you get on with it, because at the end of the day, it's all very well having deliverability or a better price, but you need to enjoy doing this. You need to really go with the one that you find easier, because if you struggle to do it, you won't do it, and then you're losing a marketing ploy that can be very, very powerful. So you need to go with the one that you like best, is one of our top tips here.
So going back to building a mailing list then, obviously you need to write to someone. As I mentioned earlier, what I do in all of my initial consultations is I say to people, send out an e-newsletter a few times a year, would you like to get it? And then I've got their permission. And then when I go home, I put their email address into my constant contact address book. There are other ways too. You should have a join my mailing list button on your website. Both Nick and I have got them on our main website. So if you wanted to get our kind of therapist emails as well as the TMS ones, just go along onto our individual websites, Google us, you'll find us, and then join our mailing list and we can send them through to you.
But the actual software providers here, so Constant Contact or MailChimp, when you sign up, they actually give you the coding that will give you that join my mailing list button. So it's not something you have to produce.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you should also put it in your email signature. When you send emails to people at the bottom, you should have your name, contact details, website, and also a little join my mailing list button or Facebook handle and all of those things. So that's a good way of building your mailing list. And we do find that we do get a trickle of people through that way. As I say, ask clients if they want to receive useful information from you. You don't want to bombard them, okay? But so I tend to put it into context of 2 or 3 times a year. And then you want to promote your e-newsletter on your social media. So every time you send out an e-newsletter, pop onto Facebook or Twitter and say, just sent out my latest newsletter. If you want to get it, click here, and you can sweep up some more people that way. Now, I can imagine what you might be thinking. That's all very well, but what do I actually write about? And this is a common question. It's a common question that makes people really fearful and puts them off doing it. It's actually much more easy than you might think, because there's nothing new under the sun. So what you can do, think about going back to when you were at college, all the different benefits of your therapy. And what you can do is pick a benefit, and each newsletter, you can explain a different benefit in each of your newsletters going forward. You can also link through to relevant and interesting articles. Now, if you are on Facebook, you'll no doubt be the recipient of numerous links through to different articles, perhaps on the BBC website, perhaps the Guardian website, or perhaps your therapy website, linking through to different interesting articles. Keep those links, and when you're writing your newsletter, write a little bit about your take on it. I saw this article, I think it's really great, I'm using it with my clients now, click here, and then take them across to the article. That's a nice little thing to do. Obviously, if you've got any discounts or any offers on the go, mention those as well. And there is, in MailChimp and in Constant Contact, the ability to print nice looking vouchers that people can kind of print off and bring along with them to your therapy room. You can give tips and advice, you know, hot weather's here, how might you keep cool in hot weather, or maintain your, you know, be relaxed, those kind of things, give tips and advice. Clients love hearing what you've been up to. So if you've been on a course, if you've moved to a new therapy room, whatever it might be, tell clients what you've been up to. And I often, when I send my newsletters out, get emails back from people. I say to them, I want to hear what you've been up to too. And I get a little update from them and they say, gosh, you sound really busy or whatever it might be. Good luck with that venture. All of that thing. So it builds that rapport. It makes them feel like they know you and that they're part of your family. And also, of course, let them know what you're going to be doing. It's very spooky, actually, that my newsletters often go out a few weeks before I'm running a workshop.
Yeah.
So I always mention, oh, and by the way, I'm running a workshop, blah, blah, blah. So it's a really good way of promoting anything that you're doing. I couldn't actually fit my newsletter onto like one page because it would have been too long to see it. So that's kind of 3 sections. So you can see there, I've done a little bit of an introduction. I did a radio chat show. I was invited to do a radio chat show, so I mentioned that. I mentioned a bit about doing hypnotherapy research. I always like to include in my newsletters where that says Mind Matters in the central column there. I like to include a bit of technical stuff about neuroscience, so that's the scientific bit, if you like. The bit underneath is my photo with my mugshot, is about keeping in touch. I love hearing from you, do drop me a line, etc. All of that. And then towards the end, you can see I've got quick links so they can nip across to my website really easily. Underneath that, you can't see it very easily, but it says join my mailing list. And this would be if they were forwarding it to a friend, the friend could join the mailing list. And then right down the bottom, which is too small for you to see, there's a safe unsubscribe button. So anytime you send this newsletter out to someone and they think, oh, I've had enough, I've got too much coming in, I don't want to hear from this person again, it's really easy for them to unsubscribe, and you don't need to worry about that.
But before you move on, what I also like is you've got your strong branding there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. And in fact, what you can do is take chunks from your website, like take your website header and put that into the newsletters as well. So all of those colours are consistent with my website and with my business stationery.
Because certainly, I mean, this is a constant contact one. It's so easy to upload photographs, and it has a mini library depending on how much you're subscribing, how much your monthly fee is. I think they restrict you, is it to 5 photographs?
At one level, at
the base level.
Yeah.
But the trick here is you can upload the images that you want initially for that first newsletter, and then upload a couple more for your next newsletter. And then what I used to do before I increased my subscription fee was to delete the images from the first newsletter, presuming that people wouldn't be reading it anymore, to be able to upload different photographs. So you can manage it within those 5 photographs, and obviously one of them will be yourself, so that will be a constant. But just bear in mind, if you do that, if somebody does tend to find an old e-newsletter of yours and they open it up and you've deleted the photographs out of the library, then it's just going to come up as a little red, cross. The image won't be there.
So a really good question. Do you send it as an attachment? No. What tends to happen is you log in, you type your newsletter in. Well, you've created your list of people. You type your newsletter in and design it and everything, and then it comes to scheduling it. And what you do is you say, right, I'm ready to send my newsletter. This is my template newsletter. And then it says, okay, who do you want to send it to? And you say, I wanted to send it to this list of people. So you might have different lists. You might have lists of clients, lists of suppliers, lists of friends, perhaps, whatever it might be, or perhaps lists of people who are interested in courses. And you tell the software who you want to send it to. And what it will do, it will kind of do a mail merge on it, and it will send it out as an email to that person. So they don't have to open an attachment. As soon as they open the email, they're in your newsletter. So think of when you get the TMSAction newsletters, right? You don't have to open an attachment. You're just straight in to the newsletter.
The content, yeah.
So hopefully that makes sense there. And what you can do, of course, as we mentioned earlier on, is you can link from your newsletter out to other articles or across to your website. So what you do when you're writing newsletters is you highlight the text which says click here to get onto my website, and then behind the scenes you can tell the software what your website address is. Nick's having a bit of a laugh now because if you can see me, I'm waving my arms all over the place. But just imagine that the website's over there and your newsletter's over there and your copy's up there. There you go. So how do you write it then? People haven't got time to read a lot of text. In fact, mine are probably too wordy. But what you need to do is to keep your e-newsletter to the point and really clear and concise. Keep the momentum going, keep the pace going. If you've got something more weighty, more chunky, put that link through, okay? So have that as a separate thing, either a page on your website or an external link to the BBC or the Guardian, as we said earlier, and just put the link through. Just do a quick introduction. This is a fantastic article on blah, 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 blah. Click here to read more. Because people haven't got much time and some people aren't as internet savvy as others, you have to give really clear instructions. Click here, all right? Unsubscribe here, whatever it might be. And if you are trying to get information across, it's a bit like when you're designing a website, use bullet points. Okay, so you probably noticed in our TMSAction newsletters we get a lot of action points going across. And also signpost a call to action. So it's not just about information giving. If you want them to book on your course, say, book now, ring me here, or click here to get the online booking form, whatever it might be. Have that call to action really clear. And as we said earlier, remember to use your logo and keep that brand consistent with everything else, all your other marketing material.
I was wondering when it was going to come back to me. I was thinking she's talking one heck of a lot on this one. Now, remember, one of the key points, and this comes across not just with e-newsletters, but any marketing. So whether it's on your social media, whether it's on adverts, whether it's on press releases, especially on your website, on the home page, the first page of your website, describe the benefits for your client or potential client. How are they going to benefit? So it's all very well, I mean, Debbie and I, as you know, are hypnotherapists. It's all very well for us to say, you know, we think hypnotherapy is great and this is how we do it, etc., etc. But exactly how can that client benefit? So if you have, for instance, you're going to do something on your e-newsletter about something about doing a facial or a relaxation session or whatever it is, you need to say something like, you know, sleepless nights, ? Have you considered da da da? Do you suffer from stress? Consider this in order to unwind. So you need to highlight what is the benefit for your client. That's a really important marketing message. And it's very easy to step into the therapist's shoes and just stay there. And you need to come out of the therapist's shoes and stand in your client's shoes and think, what do they need to see in order for them to make, you know, respond to you? As Deb said, call to action. Now this is really important. So do include phone numbers and website links, but then get somebody else to check them or even phone the number by reading it and getting someone else to dial it to make sure it's correct. Otherwise, you know, somebody could be getting all your phone calls. And actually ask people to forward as a sign-off maybe at the bottom, say, you know, great catching up with you again, let me know how you're getting on. And oh, by the way, if you know anybody that you think could benefit from what I'm saying here, then forward the email on. Becky, I love the idea about asking recipients to forward to friends. Now, this is an interesting one because that's what you actually started to do, wasn't it? And the statistics say that that does actually increase your hit rate through on these e-newsletters. And you see, you think, well, I initially, when Debbie talked to me about it, I thought I was a bit forward, you know. But it's a bit like I recognise this on Facebook. I might go and say, you know, about this webinar, for instance, on Facebook, and I'll see people like it. But if I then put at the end, and I mean, you know me, I'm a glutton when it comes to dogs. If there's a dog missing, I actually write the word please share. And the uptake in people sharing is much bigger when I actually give them the instruction. Now, you really wouldn't think that would be the case. You think people would automatically share, but they don't. So that's why we're saying, please ask people to forward. And as I flicked forward a bit too quickly there, but enjoy what you do, because if you're enjoying it, that passion will come through. Just skipping back a bit, actually, coming to content, that's something that a lot of people have trouble writing. They don't know what to say. And it's actually sit down with a friend and chat through about what it is you do and hear what it is you're saying. So type as you would speak is another big key here. Now, timing. Don't commit to a monthly e-newsletter if you're unable to stick to it, because you'll catch yourself out. The number of times that people ask us to review their websites, don't they?
Mm.
And there's a blog on there. And the blog was there for January, wasn't it? And February. And then March, April, May, June, July, nothing. You're better off not doing it. We've also seen therapists who've actually struck up a deal with a newspaper to write, heaven forbid, a weekly column, but even a monthly column. And you must really think, can I do this? So I laugh when I do my hypnotherapy e-newsletters, because it's definitely an occasional newsletter. And I think the last one I sent out, I started the first sentence of it by saying, well, it's got to be a good 6 months since I last wrote to you all. But then when I look back, it was over a year. So I never, and my clients and, potential clients that are on my mailing list, they know it's very rare I send one out. And normally I only do it, like Deb said, if there's a workshop coming up suddenly, or when I open a new hypnotherapy clinic, then actually I think people even got 2 then in 1 year. So just think, don't commit yourself. Also, it's good to consider when to hit the send button. Now, you can pre-program this with both of these software providers, so you can schedule it in. So, I might want it to go out at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning when I'm out walking the dog. So therefore, I can actually say, okay, it needs to go out on the 3rd of August at 10 a.m. and the software will ping that email out for you at that time. But just sit back and think, who are your audience and when are they more likely to read it? So if it's sort of, midday, they could be out at lunch, or they could be actually musing through their emails. If it's at the end of the day, maybe they're tired at the end of the working day, so they're fed up with the work emails. Again, they might then look at something like this. I personally prefer to send it early evening when people have got home, and then they've got the evening to look at it. But it depends on what your business is. Maybe if I only have one mailing list with Constant Contact for my hypnotherapy, with Therapist Marketing Solutions, we have various mailing lists. So we have potential members, we've got TMSAction members, we've got people who've bought the DVD, so we don't sell them a selling email, etc. But on my hypnotherapy, I only have one mailing list. So here's a thought. You could actually split one mailing list into 2 and test the open rate as you send those 2 out at different times, because the software on both of them will actually give you the open rates. You can actually have a look, which we're going to show you. Debbie's sat here rubbing her hands beside me at the moment because she loves statistics. It's very sad, but anyway, but we're going to come on to that in a minute. And an e-newsletter a few weeks before an event, a workshop or an open day, etc., because do remember people have other things to do in their diaries. So remember to plan it in. That schedule is very important.
In fact, thinking about that, Nick, I've got one waiting in the wings to be pinged out on Monday to do with a supervision group I'm running next Sunday. So I wrote it on Friday. I don't want it going till Monday. And so it's sitting there just in the ether waiting to be sent to my group, my little list of potential supervisees.
See,
so there you go. So now you know what it's like to be bombarded with emails. Oh, great. Well done. Is it Becky?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a brilliant. Yeah, you wait for a few slides on. It's absolutely fantastic. Honestly, you're going to love it. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your email is open. So you've got to get through all the noise of all the other emails. So what they want to do is you want them to know it's from you. So when you actually create your email, you can actually put in there what name will come up as to say who the email is from. Okay, so you need to use a really recognizable name there, and a short and simple subject line, a call to action, all right? Something really, really attractive that's going to make them want to open the email. And shorter email headings, the ones that really catch the attention within a few words, perform much better than long and convoluted ones. Short and snappy, a bit like Twitter. And then, why should they open it? Why should they open it? right? So you've got to give them a reason to open it. Might be special offer for August. That would get me opening an email. If I knew it was from my therapist, it said special offer for August, I'd want to open it.
Free hypnotherapy session, free facial, free massage.
Yeah, absolutely. So think about it from your client's point of view, not about what you're giving them, but what would interest them. Think of it from their point of view, and then incorporate that into the subject line of the email, because that's what's going to appear in their inbox. Of course, with anything that we do, we want to maintain that high standard. We want people to recognise us as being professional and a cut apart from the others. So check your grammar, spelling and punctuation. In newsletters, they tend to be a little bit more chatty and conversational, so you don't want them really formal and stuffy, so you can get away with a few colloquialisms. That's not easy to say after several gin and tonics, but you can get away with this kind of slightly looser language. And a good idea with the software, you can send a draft copy to yourself and a friend. I mean, I often send mine to Nicole. She'll do the same, or vice versa, so that we can actually look at it as if we were a recipient, a real recipient, if you like. Because sometimes, with the best will in the world, what looks good when you're drafting it might not look quite so well laid out.
It's very, very interesting. It's the same as I say to people, if you're doing a new website page, print it out and you will see things that you don't see when you're looking on the screen.
Yeah.
But every time I do something on, say, the TMS newsletters, Debbie tends to do the majority of it, then she'll send it through to me and I'll put my bit in. And I then send a draft copy, you save it as a draft, and then you say, okay, do you want to send this through to somebody to check? And I'll send it to myself and to Debbie. And when I go and open it in my email, bearing in mind I'm looking at it on my computer screen anyway in constant contact, I always see a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not until you send it to yourself that you notice it.
It's very weird.
And you remember earlier we said about don't put too much material in your newsletter, but link to external articles and websites. What you want to do when you send this draft to yourself is to check that those links work, okay? Because you might have done a little spelling mistake in the name of the link and so on. So click on the links and make sure they take you to where you intended them to.
I think both these software actually sometimes you actually put the link in place and then something just happens as you're saving that section and it doesn't save the link correctly. So that is very worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I tend to do, you will have noticed this in TMSAction newsletters anyway, but even with my own newsletters, I tend to keep the consistent design in all my newsletters. So as I said earlier, I've always got a brain-based bit. I've always got a bit about events coming up, and always a bit of news about what's going on in the world of hypnotherapy and so on. So it's nice because people then look for it and they are interested, I like to think.
Now, this is hilarious because why have I got the statistics slide? Now, if you scrunch your eyes up, you will see that there is a table down the bottom of these statistics, and in that little white box, and it says that the far left says emails sent, the next one emails bounced, the next one open rate, so that's the number of opens, the emails that have actually been opened. Then you've got click rate. Now the click rate is where you've put an internal link in your e-newsletter, say through to your website. So that's the number of times people click on those internal links. And then underneath that, you've got industry open rate average and industry click-through rate average. Now, these are, I thought in actual fact initially it was my Nicola Griffiths hypnotherapy stats, but it's not, it's the TMS one to one of the emails we sent out. And you'll see on the big graph above the email statistics that that big green line bouncing all over the place like a flipping tennis ball, that is our open rate of the emails. So the number of emails that have been opened as they've arrived into inboxes. So that's pretty damn good. Because if the straight line along the bottom there, the dark blue one, is the industry average. So we're doing very well. Now, the reason we're doing above the industry average is because in actual fact, our topics are very, very, very relevant. We're lucky that we know we're just dealing with therapists. So that means that the titles can be extremely targeted, And 9 times out of 10 were saying, do you want more clients? Which actually anybody wants, never mind just therapists. But then the orange one that's bouncing all over the place is the click-through rates. And this is where these stats are very useful, because I can remember my hypnotherapy e-newsletter a couple of years ago. Coming up to the summer holidays, I wrote an article about fear of flying. I thought that's going to get everybody going. And then I also had an article, I think it was something about happiness, I can't remember. But in actual fact, when I looked at these statistics, very few people have clicked through on the fear of flying, but loads clicked through on the happiness article. So what does that tell me for writing my next e-newsletter? You can start to build up, as you send these e-newsletters out, what topics your audience are looking for. And so you can write more about it. And this is where you can get very trapped into who you are and what you do, and not be aware of actually what your potential customer wants to hear about. So this, even though Debbie is our stats queen when it comes to TMS, and we have Excel spreadsheets floating around our ears, and I go a little bit boss-eyed, they are extraordinarily useful, because otherwise you can be pinging these emails out with the incorrect information, or the information that isn't of interest, and therefore you're wasting your time and your money. So this is where I have to say these are very good. I'm surprised Debbie hasn't hit me actually right now. But anyway, now this is, again, the back office of Constant Contact. And what you've got on the left is all sorts of different dates that emails have been sent out. The email name, so the title of that email. How many of these were sent to is in that sent column in the middle. Now you see our main TMS, this webinar, to advise this webinar, went to 65 people. Whereas sometimes we will just send an individual email out to somebody, which is a standard email, so that's why it can only be down to 1, for instance. There's a TMSAction newsletter, 92 people that it's been to. The next one is bounces. Now bounces is where the email has not arrived correctly into the inbox, the other end. So either that person's gone away, they've changed email address, or you've got the wrong email address. Then you've got a spam figure there, and that's if people have noted you as spam. Now that's where you've got to, this is where using this type of software is really good, because if you start getting a couple of numbers appearing in that box, you could be in trouble and your emails could start being blocked. You've got all sorts of other things happening here, so percentages of click-through rates, etc., etc., and even in that far right-hand column, how many people have forwarded your email. There we go. What does that mean?
Yeah, so as Nick said, basically what you can do with these stats is to see where your readers' interest is drawn. It's absolutely fascinating, and there's nothing I like better when I ping an email out is to keep going to Constant Contact and see how many clicks have gone here, there, and everywhere. It is terribly sad, really. The bounces are also useful too, because it means where it's probably where you put either .com or .co.uk by mistake. So you can go back and you can tidy up your email addresses and so on. And it really can be surprising what people link on. I mean, we do a lot of videos, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, depending on the time of day that we send the e-newsletter, as to how many times people click on the video links and so on.
They quite like that one where we lost the plot, didn't they?
They did, yeah. And once you get into them, it means that if you take on board what the stats are telling you, it will stop you from repeating things that aren't working. So you can focus on what is working instead. It also allows you to adjust your times, especially if you're doing tests. We find quite often that of a Friday evening is quite a good one.
Yeah.
It's quite a good time to send people out. So stats are brilliant, okay, because they actually inform you about what's going on and what is actually in your client's mind and what drives them. So, as with everything that we say and we do, just take it one step at a time. There's lots of information here. You know us, we like to pack it all in. Just take it one step at a time. The first step really is to decide whether you prefer MailChimp or Constant Contact, whether you feel more comfortable with one or the other. And then start to gather up email addresses, okay? So you could start actually by gathering up the email addresses of therapists around you. I actually send my newsletter to other therapists because I like to keep a rapport going with them as well. I get a lot of referrals from other therapists, so by sharing with them what I'm doing, that helps my business.
And it's interesting because when we run the Do You Want More Clients course, We sometimes run it for colleges and schools of training out in order to gather email addresses, because we started quite late in our careers, didn't we, picking up email addresses. However, it's never too late, and this is where it's, even if you're talking to people in the clinic, out in the street, etc., etc., if you have a business card and it has, details of how to contact you, they go through to your website, and there is subscribe to my e-newsletter. This is the way to gradually start building up these contacts. And it's quite surprising, this gentle drip feed. I had a client come back as a result of my last e-newsletter, which I probably sent out about March time, if I'm honest, which actually wasn't that too long ago. And as usual, I said, now do give me feedback, what you're doing, even if I haven't seen you for a few years as a client or potential client maybe, let me know what you're up to. And I had about 5 or 6 responses to people saying, oh, can you help with, or I sent this on to, and then one lady just said, oh, it's so nice to hear from you. I last saw you 4 years ago, and I'm just about to land in Fuerteventura, she said, which I could never have done if it hadn't have been for your help with fear of flying. Now, just that lovely little comment, that's all she put. It's this lovely interaction, but more importantly, she's remembered me now, so when she gets back to old Blighty, if there's somebody else talking about a fear of flying, it will be fresh in her mind.
Excellent, good. Any questions, guys? You can just type your question down in the bottom left-hand corner. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground, and people have been asking questions as we've been going along. As we say, it's a really cost-effective, fun way of keeping in touch. Does MailChimp track forwards? Now, that's an interesting one. If you forward an email, I don't think it does. No.
Their tracking isn't as good. Their statistics aren't as good until you start paying. And this is where, if you go back to, we have the comparison sheet, Becky. So this is going to be loaded. I'll send you through a link. This is going to be loaded to our TMSAction members website. But that middle slide, which has a big box on it that you can barely read, that will tell you. But I'll send this through to you afterwards. But I don't think it does.
It might. Some of them might tell you how many, but obviously they're not able to give you who, because that would be a data protection issue.
Yeah, they won't. Yeah. And that's the interesting thing also on the stats, the open rates and everything. If you click on those, they can actually tell you who has opened the email. So Big Brother is watching you. Sarah, can we keep any record of this session and what you've told us? Yes, this has all been recorded and it will be uploaded to the TMSAction website under the members. If you go into the members area as a TMSAction member, okay, Debbie's going to sort this out for you. But there's a section called webinars, and you'll see our previous webinars, and any future ones will be loaded to that area. So we will email you probably tomorrow.
That's great, lovely. That's a good question. How should we make most of any forwards with to encourage its recipients to read? What you could do is perhaps say in your newsletter, if you forward this on, you will get a 10% discount, and the person you forward it to would get a 10% discount if they subscribe.
Yeah.
You could maybe do something like that.
Yeah.
So in other words, they only get the discount if they sign. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Brilliant. You and me, we were.
I have to say, because that's Becky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now saying that.
Yes.
Yeah. When we do the initial consultation for hypnotherapy, we actually say. I say, you happy to have a newsletter from me? I only send one out every, 6 months or so, but it will have interesting information that can be helpful to you rather than sales stuff.
Yeah.
So that helps people get on board. So if you're talking to people about, say, makeup and facials and everything, you can actually be talking to them in the street and saying, well, actually, I've got some really good information of, what can help you with your skin type, etc., etc. on this e-newsletter. Can I send you a copy? So there's all sorts of different ways, and I think what happens is once you get into it, you start, actually your brain starts to be more focused on it, and you start to then come up with other ideas and go, oh, I know how I could do this. So it's sort of just get in to start it off, do the basics, and then as you get used to it, other ideas will come to you as to how you can catch those people.
I think that's right. It's a bit like our clients, isn't it? They come now to our sessions expecting us to ask them what's been good. What you'll find is as you go through the kind of period in between newsletters, and that'd be great for my newsletter, and you write it down in a to-do list or start drafting. You can start drafting your next newsletter as soon as you finish the last one. There's nothing to stop you doing that.
No.
You can sit there and draft one for 3 months if you want.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. And it's also when you've got some downtime or, quiet time, clients aren't very busy, there's nothing to stop you drafting 3-4 e-newsletters for the next year.
Yeah,
so they're just ready to go out when you're busier.
Yeah.
I've got to say, it is sometimes since I did one, and all this chatter, I'm thinking I need to get off to constant contact now.
I know. Fantastic. Okay.
Right.
Right.
We'll upload this to the TMSAction newsletter probably on Monday. Oh, right, hold on a minute.
What do you find works best for getting people to... I'll read this out. What do you find works best for getting people to subscribe if you can't afford to offer a discount to everyone's Facebook page? I have nearly 100 likes on my Facebook page. Very few people have subscribed to my e-newsletter. They're missing out. What you can do is, I don't know if you do this already, but on your Facebook page you say, I've just issued my newsletter and it's got interesting information about such and such. And then you can do a teaser, so you can kind of put the first part of the paragraph from your newsletter, and just when it gets really interesting, just put ...
Known as a cliffhanger.
A cliffhanger, you see. So then they've got to go to your newsletter to find out, whether Darcy got the girl or something,
Yeah.
So it's about tempting them, and what is it they're going to get from your newsletter without giving away the content? Does that make sense?
The other thing you have to bear in mind, and this is something where I was working with my husband on his promotion, his company the other day, we were constantly sending out Facebook notifications of something he wanted somebody to tick on, because people will only be on Facebook at certain times of the day. Some people are addicted to it and they're on there 24/7, obviously. But also there is a very small small percentage of your friends that actually see your Facebook posts at any one time. And I think the stat is something like 20%. It will go through 20% of your friends' feed. So you have to interact with your friends in order for them to see your Facebook feed. But you then have to keep sending out that link to that e-newsletter. Now, you don't want to be boring, so this is where you can spend quite a lot of time on Facebook, which can be a bit of a pain. So you have to put other stuff, obviously, to intersperse it. So this is where, with my e-newsletter, I'm trying to get the names, the email addresses, separately to whatever happens on Facebook. But I will also then be going on to Twitter and building up because it's difficult to rely just on one thing like Facebook.
The other thing you can do is, if you're attending a wellbeing event, is to have a business card draw.
Yeah,
so you've got a free bottle of aromatherapy oil or something, or a free half-hour session to the winner of the draw of the business card. And when people put their business cards in, they know that they're giving you, implicitly, they're giving you permission to mail them. Okay, so whenever this is how we part of how we built the TMS mailing list is through doing that. Now, if you're at an event where the public are going to, obviously members of the public don't carry their business card with them, so you have to make up little slips of paper for them to write on and put in. But that's a really good way of gathering names, really. And there are also ways of gathering names from people.
It does take time,
yeah.
But the key thing is, as opposed to some people who will just go and buy lists of names, as you build your list, they will be relevant.
Yeah.
And that means your return on investment will be much better.
Yeah.
So I've been doing e-newsletters for probably 4 years, and I've still only got a few hundred people on my list, because I tend only to put clients on, or people who've come in to, say, the clinic and said they're interested in taking the business card, and they've been happy to give me their email address. And I'm always nabbing them and saying, well, if you want, I can send you my e-newsletter twice a year. So you've got to be a bit forward sometimes and be prepared for people to say no. and it is a slow build.
Excellent. Yeah. So hopefully that's one last question for me. Whose newsletters do you like best and why?
Well, I personally like Therapist Marketing Solutions e-newsletters because they are so inspiring. They give you tons of information, like how to check where your website is ranking on Google rather than just go onto Google and type your name. So I've got to say TMSAction, because actually I do get quite a few newsletters. There's another e-newsletter I get from some natural therapy company also, but what they do is their e-newsletter is 4 boxes, and it will say, for instance, number 1 will give you 5 signs of depression, number 2 will be 3 good tips for getting off to sleep, number 3 will be something to do with food, and now they're sending it out weekly, which is a big ask, but it's very short and snappy. And the headline is only ever the title of one of those boxes, which grabs my attention. And so, because I'm very busy, the fact it's just they've got a picture above each one which depicts the subject matter. I can just literally go straight in and immediately see which topic I want to click on it, and then I use that content on my Facebook page. So it gives me really good, solid information. And it's a lot of work because it's taking you through the ask, each of those 4 boxes. When you click on it, takes you through to that company's website, and it's a whole article, and it's going back to where it's sourced from. So clinical trials, Stanford University, whatever it is. So there's an awful lot of work going on in there. So that's why I like that one. What about you, Deb?
Well, I'm a very big fan of a very cheesy American motivational guru called Jack Canfield. So, and I've recently signed up to his e-newsletters because he's very, very, very motivational. But he is quite a salesman. I mean, I have to say, and it's very difficult to resist signing up to that retreat in Turin for $7,000. You know. But no, I find that really uplifting. But I do enjoy with Nick putting together the TMSAction newsletters.
Yeah, and this is where
you had a book.
This is where your e-newsletter needs to be obviously relevant. The whole thing doesn't need to be relevant to what you do. So if you're into with most of us, we're talking about health, and you can have little, additional extras. Did you know, etc. To make the whole thing more diverse. And this is where, some motivational quotes sometimes can, intersperse and be very, break it all up.
Yeah. So, Becky, I'll meet you on one of his retreats then.
Yeah. Now, we better sign off on that because we're out of time. We will be in touch very soon. Thank you very much for coming along and joining us. We will let you know when the next webinar will be, which will be in a few months' time. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you for your input. Really enjoyed your company. Thanks then, guys.
Bye.